Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
Hey, I'm Echo.
And it's been a really long time since you've seen us, probably. Maybe. You could have watched it, but it's been a long time since we put an episode out to you guys. A month and a half since we've
Our
released
hair's
anything.
gotten so much longer in that time span.
Yes, it has. Thank you. So, what are we talking about today, Victoria?
We are talking about media types.
Yes. And, more specifically,
how Odyssey lines up with media types and whether it is best served as a radio show.
yeah. So,
Ooh, controversial.
some news before we begin. First off, super huge congratulations to Arya Curzone, voice of Mandy Strasberg, our dear friend, who got engaged about a month ago, which is super exciting, and also had a birthday slightly less time ago. So
Happy birthday, happy
yes,
engagement.
exciting
Happy
about
times.
both of those things. Why don't you go watch our interview with her after you've done this to go celebrate? That was episode 25 of the Oddcast. More news. Album 60, Head Over Heels, is now starting to go on the OAC. There are 2 episodes up there already, along with the cover, which you've seen, and the description, which you may not have seen. And we will not read the description because it contains major spoilers from album 59, so we won't go over that until we finish putting out our album 59 reviews, which will be soon. I mean that because we've already recorded half of them.
Pre-recording.
Yeah.
We're smart. We did it like half a year ago.
Yeah, all the difference that made.
Yeah. But it did.
Yeah, I guess so. Once we record these next 2, we'll have a free episode already ready to put out.
Mm-hmm.
And a half.
Yep.
And so the first 2 episode names, let me check here in order, are known then. Because the first 2 episodes are already out. And those are Words from the Wise, episode 783, and 784, Cycle of Fear. We also know from the wiki the other 4 titles, but they're not in order yet, which are, in no particular order, Between the Lines, parts 1 and 2, No Cause for Concern, and The Case of the Ball Cap
Hero.
The Case of the Ball Cap Hero, and that'll take us up to 788. So, without further ado, let's talk about media types. Is Odyssey best served as being a radio drama? So, for this discussion, we kind of considered 5 big types of serialized media out there. They kind of take up different forms in terms of what they make, what makes them up, what they're composed of. So the first is radio drama, obviously, which is visual with your
visual with your ears. Good job, Devin.
It's auditory with your ears. And then we have
animation.
Yes.
With your eyes.
And your ears.
And your ears.
Both, yeah. And we have live action, which is also with your eyes and ears, but one's cartoon and one is people.
One's books, and that's just with your eyes, and then
it's just text specifically.
Yeah,
not fully visual, it's just text.
Graphic novels / comics / manga
/ web comics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is non-moving visuals and text.
Yeah.
But no audio.
Like I'm reading Pandora Hearts right now, and it's killing me because it's so good.
So those are our 5 media types we're considering: radio, animation, live action, books, and graphic novels. So first off, we wanted to get a general feel of what are the differences between them. What are the qualifications of each in terms of the positive points that you can give to them? What are some pros and cons of these different formats? So I came up with some different points, mostly based off of radio, and then some other ones I kind of looked at, you can make a little graph of, yeah, they have this, no, they don't. So looking at mostly radio-oriented stuff first, in terms of a format that leaves a lot up to the imagination and is really open-ended visual-wise, like it allows you to have a lot of imagination and a lot of thought and variety in the way that you
Anything can look
visualize it.
the way you want it to.
Exactly. You get that from radio and from books, sort of from graphic novels, because they show you some stuff, but not everything since they don't move and you can't hear it. But definitely not from live action or animation. Actors being able to play a lot of different characters without it being obvious or tacky is definitely yes from radio and animation, but no from live action. And doesn't really apply to books or graphic novels. I couldn't even give it a strike for or against, so I just took it out of the running for that one.
So technical difficulties, like the actors aren't there or they have to do multiple takes, aren't a big deal. Radio, no, because you can just mix and match that up together, leave all the scraps on the cutting room floor, quite literally. Animation, you can do that. Live action, you can't do that because I watch a whole bunch of movies and they have their hair in one part and then in the next take they have it in the other part, and it makes me so angry because I always notice that.
Yeah. And I mean,
always notice.
It's something huge for Odyssey, right? Sometimes actors have to record from a distance or record after the fact in a different session.
Or they passed away.
Most radio and animation, for both of those, the characters aren't even in the same location when they do voiceover, and yet it's all split together. But green screening a person into a movie if they're not there is not nearly as easy as all that. And also books and graphic novels, technical difficulties or temporary absence of someone obviously isn't as much of a problem and doesn't apply in anywhere near the same way. One of the biggest ones for me, you can multitask while you're experiencing this format, or close your eyes or whatever, do a bunch of other stuff.
Yep.
Yes to radio, no to animation, no to live action, no to books, no to graphic novels, because all of them are visually involved formats except for radio.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, but that's...
I know that would count as radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's not radio drama, still an audio exclusive format. And, you can't close your eyes while you're reading a book. You can't drive while you're watching...
I mean, I have, but then I realize it doesn't work.
You can't drive while you're watching a cartoon. You can't, do a puzzle while you're watching a movie, or all sorts of things that you can't give your full attention to both things at the same time like you can with radio.
Next one, GIF and not GIF-able.
Yeah.
So GIF-able.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what a GIF is, because I had to explain to my mother what a GIF was a couple months ago, she thought they were videos, but the sound just wouldn't turn on, and she didn't know why. So...
Oh, Mom.
Yeah. So GIFs are basically little snippets of video without any sound.
Yeah.
So radio, obviously not, because it doesn't have any visuals. Yes to animation, yes to live action. No to books, yes to graphic novels, because I have seen manga GIFed before.
But there's no movement in manga. If it's a GIF, then it's different frames from different bits that have been turned into a GIF.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not actually animated.
I have seen manga GIFed before.
But generally speaking, you're not going to make it, because there's no movement in manga.
No, there's a lot that I have on my computer of Kingdom Hearts GIFs.
Well, I'm just saying you would have to force it into a GIF by taking different parts and putting the frames together, turning it into a GIF.
Yes. Which
would count under reaction images more so, which you can do the same as with GIFs, except you can do that for graphic novels. Either way, I mean, that is something with AIO that I feel miss out a lot in the fandom. And
we don't have very much fan art. I have I think 2 or 3 pictures of fan art on my computer from Odyssey. I have 3 pictures. I have one of Wooten and Penny, one of Eugene, and one of Connie, and that is it.
Yeah, it's few and far between, but I mean, it sucks that we can't, cross-fandom spread stuff through, because there's so many times, honestly, where I want to use, like, reaction images and I want to use GIFs to spread quotes from the show that are applicable to a post. But it's awkward because you'd really just have to type out a transcript of the quote, which is not quite as good.
You just need Harlow, like, waving his arms around at the bottom of a post or something like that.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a pretty, like, cornerstone part of online fandom interaction, which we're not able to have because we're an audio-exclusive format. Conversely to the first point, it's, something being really easy to visualize or hear something. Like, you don't need to use a lot of verbose description and exposition to understand what's going on in a moment. Which radio you can't do as much, books you can't do as much because they're both lacking visuals. For graphic novels, because you can see stuff, but you can't hear stuff and stuff isn't moving. But definitely, animation and movies can do that because they have audio and visual formats. Here's another significant one. Credits. Everyone being able to be credited in a format. And you can actually, like, have lots of credits and put down the names of everyone involved, which you can do with all those formats except for radio.
We've done that in Odyssey, like, Will Ryan played Eugene Meltzner, Katie Lee played Connie Kendall, Andre Stoika played what?
But my point is,
and I'm Chris.
They'll rarely put more than, like, 6 actors' names at the end of an episode. And, they'll say who was the executive producer, the writer, the director, the producer, and the sound design. But there's still a lot more. Think if that episode was animated, do you think at the end there would be longer ending credits than that?
Yes.
With more detailed who did what and stuff like that.
Yes, and they would have a live orchestra, and it would hear in the background behind the music the sounds of Devin and I screaming in agony.
Exactly. There are tons of episodes where we don't know lots of the actors who played some of the characters, and we don't know lots of the other, less involved people of the crew who made it because it's only audio. You have to read all the credits out loud, and so Chris only reads so many, whereas with animation and live action, you can put lengthy credits at the end, and books and graphic novels, you can just print them in fine print at the beginning or the end. Or anywhere in between. Other languages, not the whole work being translated into another language, but when a character is speaking another language, being able to understand that to translate it in some easy format. In animation and live action, usually just have subtitles. In books, it can be written in italics or brackets afterwards, same for graphic novels.
Or you at least know the spelling of the words in another language.
Yeah.
You don't have to guess.
So, with radio, because it's only audio, it doesn't work nearly as well. And Jimmy even makes that quip in a mission for Jimmy. Like, I wish you guys came with subtitles. And they've worked around it this way or that sometimes. Like with Egghead actively translating things for them.
No, you genius.
In the launch, yeah. But lots of times we don't know what they're saying in another language, so...
Por la puerta.
Puerta.
Aquí.
Only a couple more. Not requiring electricity. That's a nice thing. Sometimes. Books and graphic novels don't require electricity, unless they're ebooks or webcomics and such. But live action radio and animation, they definitely do require electricity always, which can suck sometimes. But conversely, I mean, if it's dark out, you can't read a book or graphic novel if they're analog, but you can listen to the radio or watch something on the TV or your computer in the dark. Here's a vaguer point, I guess, which is mostly just kind of a detract from live action, which is how creating good special effects increases production value, production cost significantly. It costs a lot of money to make something look good in live action for special effects. Animation and radio, you can do quite a lot, and it doesn't cost nearly as much more to create all sorts of fancy stuff, although obviously Foley does still take a lot of time and creativity. And with books and graphic novels, you know, you can do whatever you want. It's not going to make it more difficult cost-wise. And another significant one for radio, of course, and Odyssey specifically, is really creative techniques and creative ideas expressed through the limitations of the media. And this is something that I always love in all sorts of media, and it's one of the huge, many things I love about Homestuck so much. But with Odyssey, what comes to mind, obviously, specifically are A Perfect Witness, and also to a lesser extent, Sounds Like a Mystery, where we have these great audio-based mysteries where we are in the same boat as, you know, this character where they're trying to solve something based off of sound, and that's all that we have too. And so, you know, suddenly they are stuck in the same place that we are, and we're experiencing the same way that we are because we're based on the same sense, and they don't have any more visuals than we do for it.
You just really wish you had a Foley guy so he could be like, that is the sound of a flower pot breaking over some lightning or something like that.
Over some lightning.
Or like the crazy sounds they do.
Someone took a bar of lightning and then broke a flower pot.
Well, like in Jurassic Park, they took like dolphins and like sharks and like a bunch of other things and like a billy goat or something, and they're like, that's the sound for the T-Rex guy.
That's true. That's true. Foley's very creative. So yes, you don't get that nearly as much in animation live action. You could get stuff in books and graphic novels, like webcomics. Yeah, so those were just a couple of the general points, just so we could try and visualize what are some of the pros, what are some of the cons for different forms. And I added them up, and note, these should not be weighted equally. I added them up just to give a rough idea of how many points there were for and against different forms. So radio...
There are tons of points we haven't gone over still, like,
well,
just in general.
None that we're listing. Yeah. That's the end of our list. But I'm sure there's more. You can put more in the comments what you thought of, because there really are. There's a lot. So radio got, for ish things, I counted half. There weren't a lot of them. Radio got 5.5 out of 12, which is surprisingly low, 45.8%. Animation got 7.5 out of 12. 62.5%. Animation, or live action, only got 5. Which
they all did badly.
The lowest out of all of them, 41.7%. Books got 7 out of 11, which is 63.6%, and graphic novels got 8 out of 11, which is the highest, surprisingly, for graphic novels, 72.7%. So out of the 5, then, the second, it goes from highest to lowest: graphic novels, books, animation, radio, and live action. So, in terms of general points, the highest score then goes to graphic novels and comics, although that is not to say that Adventures in Odyssey should be a comic book, a webcomic, or something of the sort.
It just has a lot of points for it, so those shouldn't be all weighed equally in reality. For example, one of the most important aspects for us in media format is how we can multitask with it. Like, can we close our eyes while we're experiencing it, listen to it in headphones while driving, while doing a puzzle, or playing a silent app, or weeding the garden, which I have done, and it definitely helps the time pass faster.
I did it while I worked in Alberta, doing all sorts. The first 4 months, 8 hours a day, I had my headphones in listening to Odyssey while I was working, and I was allowed to, I want to point out. But man, I listened to the entire show through just at work during that time, because I just spent all day, every day. I'd have to sit sorting seed, counting out 11 grains of barley, putting them in an envelope. Count out 11 grains of barley, put them in an envelope.
11 grains of barley.
And do that for hundreds and hundreds of envelopes sometimes. And an 8-hour day would feel like it was 15 minutes long, because I was just listening to Odyssey the whole time.
You're listening to Album 40, and someone's like, hey, what's Oprah? And you're like, it's a dichotoliness!
Yes. So yeah, and that only applies to music and the radio, and like we said before, it applies to books in the form of audiobooks, but that's moving them into a different format, which is a lot closer to audio drama. Radio is the only serialized narrative format that can boast that quality, and that's really big for me. really, there are so many huge things key things about AIO that require the radio. Like I said before, the use of voice actors to do so many different characters, for example, which has and could only be transferred to animation as well. You get things like sounds like a mystery, The Perfect Witness, like we said, where it's centered around limitations of the medium and being audio. It also applies, and does also apply with The Perfect Witness, but other places too, to blind characters, of which we have had many, where you get to experience the story in the same way that they would in canon, because we also lack the visuals that they do, which is sometimes very significant, like in A Perfect Witness. And there's so much imagination lent through the radio, and it allows for so many fantastic feats to be done without expensive visuals, although it can also limit the amount of background information and Easter eggs and cameos, and it can require clunkier exposition sometimes, since we can't see what's going on. In production, it can be much more easily edited than a visual production, especially with multiple actors. And there are several stories of actors being absent, like Earl Bowen being gone for the Dangerous Haircut recording in The Power of One in album 44. There was Wit being gone, as Paul Herlinger being absent during the beginning of Plan B recording for album 38.
During all of Novacom.
Well, he didn't record those separately from a distance, is what I was saying. Those were recorded far away and then brought in. And you can also cut together previous clips in order to do stuff like they did for Wit, and like they did for Will, and like they did for Katrina, and like they did for Bernard, like they did for Tom. You do all sorts of things. So, yeah, and not only can that be cut in post, but obviously multiple takes of a line can be easily inserted however they fit best, just like they can with animation.
So there's certainly downsides, like the lack of GIFs and reaction images, which can not be best in a fandom, and the lack of full credits.
Yeah, like Supernatural, who is always spreading their tentacles through their infinite GIFs.
Let's not talk about it. Which isn't, I don't know, it's just not fun in a fandom when you don't know every actor and crew member involved sometimes. Languages can be trickier with radio since there are no subtitles and you're just listening and you have no way of even seeing how their mouths are moving when they say it. Shows worked around in many creative ways though, although it still could be better. I think that could be debated. I'm not sure I agree with what you're saying, Devin.
What? Which part? That it has been worked around in creative ways?
No.
Or that it could be better?
Well, how would it be better? How would just having a translator along everyone? So that's not realistic.
No, I'm saying that, like, that the way that they've done is not ideal. That I wouldn't say it's perfect. We haven't understood every time another language has been spoken in the show.
That's true, but that doesn't mean
I agree
with you.
I'm not saying it could be improved in the format. I'm just saying that it's not as good as it could be in any format. I'm saying it's still a negative point.
I'm saying you read the next part and I'm done talking to you.
Despite the fact that the discrete list of pros and cons was smaller for radio, I personally feel that the pros it did have for radio, they were much more significant. This is a rare and dying art form that most people do not realize still exists out there. AIO is one of the few dramas that still graces the airwaves, and it is the most popular and highest quality one that there is. It stands apart in its medium, even if the composition or the competition is small. Sorry. There are so many integral parts of AIO that make it wholly unique, and they wouldn't be possible without this format. And while the forays into AIO books, and yes, even animation, have their places, nothing can replace the deep flexibility of the radio format. In many different ways that we've listed, radio is so open to do what animation and live action can't in both production and consumption, but it also adds more layers of production and quality and interaction beyond what books and graphic novels provide. So it kind of sits in the middle in a way, both in its history and in the type of result these formats. So it's like a happy medium in between. So it allows for some of the bests of both of these worlds, and the result is obviously a very successful series. So there are some things that I would love to get from AIO that would be gained from another format, sure, but overall, I would not have it any other way.
Can I just say, in defense of radio and against webcomics, manga, like light novels on the web, stuff like that, it always really bothers me how I don't know what the characters sound like a lot while I'm going through it. And
for books as well, or just for visual silent formats?
Sometimes for books, but mostly for visual silent formats. So I always try and find people who have dubbed it very well and see what that's like. Like, for example, the series I'm reading right now, Pandora Hearts, it has a show too. And I was really impatient with getting to the show because I wanted to know what all the characters sounded like, because I was tired of just trying to figure out voices in my head.
And then sometimes
it's a really long series.
It turns out that you're really wrong. Or it turns out that the creators really misinterpret the way the line is supposed to be read. Dumbledore, goblet of fire.
Harry, did you put your name in the goblet? You're not even in the Harry Potter fandom, Devin.
No, but
you haven't even read the books or seen the movies.
I still appreciate the problem that is because everyone always brings it up all the time.
I didn't even know what was wrong with it. Like, I had to get Justin to explain it to me. He was like, the line was, Dumbledore asked calmly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, do you have any more things to add to this discussion? I mean, I feel kind of bad because I feel like in the overall discussion, we did technically put slightly more points against radio than for it.
No, you put points against radio.
But overall, yeah. I mean, and that's the point about there is no one best format for media, is the bottom line. All of them have different pros and cons, like I said, and they work for different types of storytelling. The 5 different ones we discussed, and there are other ones out there too, for serialized storytelling, you know, they work for different things and depends on what kind of story you want to tell. And just because graphic novels had the highest percentage of pros over cons that we listed, you know, that doesn't mean it's the best. Everything should be told that way. It's the best type of storytelling, because there were a bunch where, you know, radio was the only one, and there were ones where animation or live action came out on top.
I feel like as long as you have good production value for your radio series and you just show the people who are listening what, like, a picture of what the characters look like, they'll have no problem with it. As long as they're, like, used to cutting off their other senses when they are listening to a radio series. If they're unfamiliar with it, they might have a little bit of trouble at first, but in general, they shouldn't have any problem. And I feel like with radio series, we are really unspoiled compared to other fandoms. So, like, in other fandoms, when you see, like, a picture, like, or, like, fan art or something like that, or a GIF image, you're just like, oh, yeah, cool, okay. But when you see something with radio, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so special. This needs to be, like, protected. Like, let me hug the person who made this picture.
Because we're starving for it.
Because,
are you talking about fan art or canon art?
I'm talking, well, both in some cases. Because, like, when you don't know what a character looks like in Odyssey, it's just left to your imagination. So it's really big when you finally do get to see what a character looks like. Like, the first time I saw what Jay looked like, I flipped. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's a canon image of Jay! I finally know what he looks like! This is amazing! And I got really, really excited, and when we see fan art, we get, like, so happy. Like, every single time you see fan art, you, like, send it to me. You're like, Victoria, look at this right now.
It's so rare.
I feel like you just, like, appreciate it a lot more than you do with other things. Because if you see a really nice picture in something else, you're going to be like, oh, that's beautiful. But if you see something in Odyssey like this, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's tangible. Holy. And then you're just like, oh man, this is so great.
We appreciate our fan stuff. Yeah. It's a tiny fandom. And same thing with...
It's tiny and it's broken, but it's still good. Yeah, it's
still good. Same thing with fan fiction. It's out there, but there's not a ton. And
I read some fan fiction once, and it was before I knew what filters were. It was like one of the first ones I ever read.
Bless all of you who write fanfics and make fan art and produce fan content for this show.
Send it our way. We'll check it out.
And that includes the podcast makers. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to us.
Says the episode that's supposed to be for September 6th.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to all those great podcast makers.
Definitely not Christmas next week.
Kevin, Garrett, Austin, Tasha,
Brendan. The Heart Cast.
Even the official podcast.
Yes.
Hey
guys. Welcome to the Heart Cast.
I'm Steven.
I am someone else.
We survived the apocalypse. It's just us and the rats.
All right. So I think that's basically the end. Yeah. There's no best format. It depends on what kind of story you want to tell. But for the storytelling of Odyssey, radio is what serves it best.
Yeah. Have you seen the animated series?
I have. You know, there was an episode of the Oddcast where we live blogged it, basically. You know, we did a reaction video. That was a really popular episode.
That's our most popular episode.
It is.
Actually.
We made that forever ago, and there still hasn't been the second video yet.
I was just thinking about that at the beginning of this.
We should really do that soon.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll be coming eventually.
Huh, or probably not if it goes as well as our first take did.
Yeah. If the first time we tried to do the second one and I accidentally didn't record any audio for it.
Yeah, we just have the video. Thanks a lot, Devin.
You're welcome.
To be fair, it wasn't that funny, so we'll try and be funnier next time.
Yeah, and it'll still be our live reaction video. First time watching.
You didn't hear anything. Cut to static.
So, what are we doing next time, Victoria?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. Because you preferred it last night.
I did?
What did you listen to last night?
Oh! Yeah. We are going to be reviewing Hidden Gems and Run-of-the-Mill Miracle.
Yes. So, until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. This has been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And this has been Victoria Francis, also known as Cut to Static. Maybe they didn't notice the last couple minutes.
And this has been
Turn it off.
The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.